was a track there from Don Amero. He is an Aboriginal singer-songwriter based in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And he does a lot of touring around the country. He's a very hard-working independent musician. And I had a chat with him down the line today. He was calling from his home just outside of Winnipeg. And we spoke. Firstly, I asked him about his... there's an interesting story about him really making that firm decision to take music seriously as a full-time concern. And he made that decision when he was working a job. I asked him what that job was and how it all came about.
I was a hardwood floor installer, and I had sort of been doing music a little bit, dabbling here and there into the music scene, and I just realized one day that I wasn't entirely happy doing what I was doing, and I figured if I was going to make it happen, I needed to jump in with both feet, so I walked off the day job and have been doing music ever since. And so it's been a bit of a scary ride at times, but always, you know, laced with many good stories and good things that have come out of taking that risk, you know?
Absolutely, and the hard work involved. Like, are you still kind of self-managing? I know you did initially for at least the first few years. Are you still...
Yeah, I mean, I'm independent. I don't work with a label, but in the last year I started working with a manager, and she's also a publicist. She's probably the one that maybe first got in touch with you guys. Her name's Rosanna.
Rosanna, yeah.
And she's fantastic because she's taken on a whole different workload from me, and just it frees me up quite a bit to do some other things. So that's been a huge help. But up until then, you know, up until about a year ago, I was pretty much doing most of it all by myself, and having her on board has definitely sped the process up for me. So
absolutely, and you're a clear role model for people who really have to understand that it is a lot of work, and you're very clear about telling people that you're not owed anything, that you set out on this course, that you work at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, there's still times where you're kind of like, you know, one night's a successful night, and you show up to the next gig, and you're kind of like, what happened here? Something didn't quite work out. So you're always going back to the drawing board and trying to figure out, you know, at this stage of the game for me, I'm still growing a lot of my audience across the country, and but it's getting better. Like I say, I mean, I'm elated the fact that I've been able to survive in this industry for 5 years, and even, you know, more than survive, thrive. You know, so.
And speaking of that and the resiliency that you demonstrate, you did come from a part of Winnipeg that was a difficult place to grow up. What was your experiences growing up shaping your resiliency and your work ethic? And also wondered about encouragement from others during that time.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing about growing up in the north end of Winnipeg, I mean, it has its fair share of really harsh stories, and you see a lot of, like, suffering and poverty, and just, you know, some of the poorest conditions in cities. I mean, you guys in Vancouver definitely have, you know, over in the East Hastings there, right? I've seen some of the hardships of life and how it can, you know, pay its toll. And so growing up with that all around me, I kind of felt like, okay, I knew the kind of life that I didn't want to have, and I knew the things that I wanted to steer clear of. And it seemed to me that a lot of the problems that were sort of the root of the problem was addictions and alcohol and drugs, and I just saw that those were things that were going to take you down, you know. And so I just decided that was something that wasn't going to be a part of my life, and I've never sort of given in to any of those things, and I've just allowed myself to kind of be free. I mean, not to say that I don't enjoy a beer with friends now and again, but at the same time, it's never been a vice for me. It's never been something that I can't, I've never lost control over, you know, and so that I sort of learned through, in some ways, the mistakes of others. And as far as people in my life that have sort of, you know, kind of held me up and you know, carried me under their wing kind of thing, you know, there's been a few teachers along the way in my school years that you know, definitely saw potential in me at a younger age, and saw that I had that determination and the drive to succeed in whatever it is I was going to do. So they really sort of, you know, were, for lack of a better term, with a wind beneath my wings.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. And just, you know, and lyrically, your music's very effective, because without preaching, you do give a positive message that has influenced others. I read an interview online where literally somebody phoned you or emailed you and said they heard your song on the radio, and he pulled away from going to the liquor store.
Yeah.
So I was curious then about, you know, with youth culture, and we have some of the harder edge sort of hip hop culture that some urban youth can be drawn to. And even though it's representative of something authentic to certain people in cities in North America, it's also become mass marketed to people. And do you see that it has had, say a negative influence on some urban youth, whereas your music could give a flash of insight into something else?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I think about, the demographic that harder edge hip hop and, kind of what it speaks to. I mean, it's speaking to young people and sort of people figuring out their lives. And, I think when you're young, you're just sort of like, you're looking for a good time. There's so much garbage going on in the world that sometimes you just want to unplug from all that and just, kick back and not think too much about that kind of stuff. On the other side, I think a lot of times kids come from broken homes, and they're looking for a group to sort of call their own and kind of be their family outside of their family. And hip hop is sort of like that, because it's sort of, you have crews and you run with your crews, and then that's when things start to get kind of ugly because it's one crew against another crew, and so it's kind of crazy. I mean, I can't speak too much to that because I don't know a whole lot about that world. But for me, I just realized that I wanted to share music, like you said, that wasn't preachy, but just giving people some hope and sort of shedding light on my story and hoping that through, when people hear my story, that they're encouraged and want to, fight to succeed in whatever it is that they want to do.
Absolutely. You're increasing in your touring, and it looks like there could be an international focus coming up for you too. I'm always curious about cross-cultural pollination with Aboriginal people.
Yeah.
Do you think in the coming years there'll be a chance for collaboration and movement with other First Nations?
Yeah, I mean, there's already some of that going on between like Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Hawaii, and all these other Aboriginal countries across the world. And I just kind of feel like, for me, that the opportunity hasn't quite proven itself just yet. But there are some things in the works right now.
Going down.